Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. I'm KP and here today we're going to be going through an NXT recap for this past week's edition of the show. This is actually a special edition of NXT, is NXT Revenge. This is on the 14th of April and it's a part one of two shows. There will be another one next week as well. This is the first installment. So let's get down into what happened across the course of this show, break everything down, go from start to finish, and let's get the reaction. So kicking things off then, we would have a one-on-one matchup between Kalani Jordan and Jada Parker. We obviously had a very pretty aggressive feud between these two ladies for the past number of weeks, going into the past couple of months. And yeah, this will sort of be the next sort of edition of this feud. Not a bad matchup here. Quite physical, pretty aggressive between both ladies as the feud would entail. And yeah, they sort of like passed it through into the matchup quite nicely. Had a good feel to it. Jada Parker sporting a new theme as well, which is quite interesting. Sort of like weighing into the Miss Parker chance that she gets on a regular basis. And yeah, both ladies are looking pretty good here in this opening contest of the show. We do see towards the very late stages, Jada Parker sort of like seemingly looking to close the matchup out and has Kalani set up for a hypnotic. She goes for that move, but she actually misses the attack and Kalani evades it. And during this situation, Kalani Jordan had removed the turnbuckle just as Jada Parker was lining up that hypnotic. Because when she goes to land it and Kalani moves out of the way, there is an exposed turnbuckle. So Jada obviously hits the turnbuckle with her hypnotic move. That sort of like, just shocks her, sends her down onto the canvas. She's sort of out of the action for a couple of moments. And that gives Kalani Jordan just enough time to go up to the top rope, take advantage, and to hit her one-of-a-kind moonsault in order to get the victory here over her bitter rival. So yeah, big win here for Kalani Jordan, 1-on-1 against Jada Parker. As for what happens next between these two ladies, I don't really know. It's one of those situations where you think it might be over, maybe it's not. This is all about revenge, and it looks like Kalani Jordan has definitely got a sense of revenge here over Jada Parker. So keeping things up then with our show, we will go into our next segment, and this will be Joe Hendry in concert. It's been a while since we've seen him take to the musical segments, but here we are. So, before he starts, he does look back on losing this NXT title at Stand and Deliver, and how he's not going to let that keep him down, but instead, he's going to begin to play a concert in aid of lifting spirits. He sings about his time as NXT champion, questioning if Tony will defend his title successfully later on tonight against Ethan Page, and whether he'll himself be able to get his title back from Tony. He always seemingly goes to rhyme in with a next sentence, with sort of like going to the main roster as a possibility, and maybe the rhyme was going towards. Doesn't get to say it though, because as he's about to say whatever he's going to say, we then see Keanu Carver walking down towards the ring, very, very slowly, very ominously. He gets into the ring, and Joe Hendry sort of like sizes him up, ends up smashing a guitar against Keanu Carver, but the crazy thing is, Keanu Carver takes the move. It looks as if like he has been damaged at first, but then he quickly just sort of like, just phases back in and just, yeah, seems to be absolutely okay and fine. Doesn't seem to be, hurt or in pain at all. And he then proceeds to beat Joe Hendry down. The action spills to ringside. We get some security involved as well, trying to separate the two men. And it does relate then to Carver actually spearing Hendry into the barricade at ringside alongside those two members of security to take out all three men at once, with Keanu Carver standing tall at the end of this segment. So it looks like Joe Hendry has his next sort of calling card here on NXT, and that is going to be a one-on-one match against Keanu Carver. That's going to be happening next week. I would be later revealed in the night. Coming up after that, we would have a debut for NXT. We would see former Evolve Women's Champion Callie Armstrong heading down to NXT's ring to have a matchup with LFG Season 2 winner Skylar Ray. This would be a pretty decent matchup, to be fair. Chance for people who don't watch Evolve to see what Callie Armstrong can do. She's a very physical athlete. I use the word athlete. She's got a very big history of being an athlete, but she is extremely explosive. That's a great way of describing her. Very, very powerful, very strong, very quick on her feet, and that sort of like just matches her style in the ring and just allows her to really just dominate people when she can. One of the standouts of the Evolve Women's division as well for her time down there. And yeah, she impresses here in the first matchup on NXT, getting the victory over Skylar Ray by hitting her Callie connection, which is basically a massive running shoulder tackle, sort of like Bron Breakker-esque, bouncing off the ropes from bounce to bounce, really just getting some serious speed and just absolutely leveling her opponent with a hellacious shoulder tackle. It's it's a brutal hit, and she does that on Skylar Ray. That gets her the 1-2-3 on her debut match in NXT. Welcome to the NXT brand, Callie Armstrong with a victory. Coming up after that, we would have a NXT Championship matchup. Tony D'Angelo would put his gold on the line against Ethan Page. Ethan and Ricky Saints had a plan before this matchup, and it seemed to be sort of like stepping in the right direction at first, because we do see Ricky Saints appearing at ringside sort of relatively early into this contest, but he gets dragged underneath the ring. It is then revealed a few moments later after Shiloh Hill emerges from underneath the ring, dragging Ricky Saints via a rope that's tied around his ankles, and he literally just puts the rope over his shoulder, just drags Ricky Saints to the back. Quite a comical segment there. Ricky Saints really selling it really well. And then we do see, obviously, the matchup continuing from Tony D'Angelo and Ethan Page. Pretty physical matchup, this one as well. And yeah, chance for both men to impress. And it does actually spill to ringside, and it's quite a hellacious affair. We get the announce table involved as well, as Ethan Page sizes Tony up for a twisted grin on the table. But Tony D'Angelo does get out of the way, sends Ethan down to just onto the barricade below. And then we sort of see Ethan getting back up onto the table courtesy of D'Angelo, who then sort of runs across the barricade and ends up hitting a spear onto Ethan Page, slamming him onto the top of that table, rolls him back into the ring, hits dead to rights, that spine buster, and that would be enough for Tony D'Angelo to retain his NXT championship. So yeah, and still your champion is Tony D, his first defense under his belt, and yeah, big victory here, statement made. So moving on then into our second half of NXT. This will see mylesborne hit the ring with a promo. He would look back on defeating Johnny Gargano at Stand and Deliver before he was then attacked by Dion Lennox. He would say that that moment at Stand and Deliver for him winning was actually stolen by Dion before issuing a warning to him, sort of in lieu of Dark State as well, sort of like a big warning generally speaking. As he does say their name, I guess you could say Joe Hendry-esque here, Dark State does then appear in the crowd with Dion holding a mic immediately. And Lennox says that the Dark State slump is over before saying the North American title is the next step for the group. Miles says that they can have a title match next week one-on-one before warning him that if Dark State do attack him now, that maybe that match might not happen after all. Weighing things up, Dion Lennox obviously considering the options here, goes back to Miles then saying that as Dion is the leader of Dark State, or so he thinks he is, he's got a decision to make. That then sort of allows Sugars then, who's sort of been kind of on edge with Dion Lennox the past couple of weeks. He then weighs in quickly with a mic of his own, saying that there is no leader of Dark State and that there's more important things to worry about than the North American Championship. Lennox and Sugars basically almost have a moment of butting heads again here, sort of like disagreeing with each other, sort of like getting each other's words crossed over. And then we see Sugars rushing to the ring to try and attack mylesborne. Dion Lennox sort of attempts to rush down as well, but is a bit later than Sugars. Miles just hits a Bourne again onto Sugars, lays him out, and that sort of like means that Dark State need to scramble. They come to the aid of Sugars, sort of like get him to ringside and sort of like look over him as the segment comes to an end. So mylesborne seemingly one step ahead of Dark State at the moment, playing some mind games, getting physical as well when necessary. Yeah, not a bad way of getting into the heads of the group. So coming up after that, we would then have a NXT Men's Speed Championship qualifying matchup. This will be a semi-final matchup. Winner goes against Lexus King next week in the final for that vacant championship after Ilio Lafleur had to relinquish the championship. So this one would see EK Prosper going one-on-one with Dorian Van Doe. Dorian will actually make his Evolve debut last week. Looking pretty impressive in that performance as well. And here we have him competing again. So a chance to see a little bit more of him. I managed to get a little bit of a sneak peek last week on Evolve, but this is a chance to see a little bit more of him, which is quite nice. But for a big guy, he's absolutely stacked. He's got muscles on muscles, built a very impressive specimen. He is very, very agile, very, very quick, and he's got some serious high-flying capabilities as well, which makes for a very fun speed contest here as well. Against EK Prosper, who's also very similar in that sense as well, except he doesn't have quite the power game that Dorian does possess. This one was quite a fun matchup, though. Really high-flying, crazy speed, just going back and forth, balls to the wall. Just a serious, fun matchup, to be fair. I really, really like this one. Would have loved to see a lot more of it. Obviously, it is a speed contest, so you get 3 minutes. And literally, just before those 3 minutes have elapsed here, we then see Dorian attempting a shooting star press, but he misses the move. EK then gets up onto the top rope himself, lands on Moonsault, and I think with about 7 or 8 seconds left, he does get that pinfall, and he books a spot against Lexus King next week for that Speed Championship. So we'll have to see who wins that contest on next week's NXT Revenge. But congrats to EK Prosper for getting to the final. So coming up then, we'll go into our main event of the show. This will see Lola Vice defending her NXT Women's Championship, newly won, against JC Jane, who is the challenger on this occasion. This would be a pretty good matchup, to be fair. Both ladies sort of like running it back here. They've obviously had matches in the past for that championship on a couple of occasions, and this is the latest installment. It will get to a point where Lola starts to show some real resilience here, kicking out some big-time moves. One of which being a rolling encore, just after Fallon Henley attempted a sort of like a tiger feint kick around the ring post, which is what she did when Stephanie Vicaire was the champion, because then that allowed JC Jane to hit a rolling encore. I'd have to watch those clips sort of like split screen-esque, really, because it seemed to be that it was like just carbon copies of the rolling encore. Not so much the tiger feint kick. Don't think Fallon really connected on this occasion. So yeah, unfortunate there. But in terms of the rolling encore, it must have been carbon copy-esque. I'd love to see that sort of like a side-by-side screen here. It was very, very similar. But either way, regardless, Lola kicks out of that rolling encore. Very, very big shocking moment there, showing some real heart and soul and defending her championship. And as she does that one, then she then starts to overcome the numbers game of fatal influence as Lainey Reed gets involved, hitting Lola Vice. And then we do see JC trying to go for another rolling encore. This time misses, then gets hit by a spinning back fist, and that'll be enough for Lola Vice to retain her championship, having put away JC Jane once again. So yeah, looks seemingly like JC Jane's done now. Will be she headed to the main roster? We'll have to wait and see. The post-match, Fatal Influence didn't have any time to sort of like come to terms with their losses here, because Callie Armstrong would charge down and just run right through the group, taking them down with a Callie connection again, and she would get onto the apron and start a stare down with Lola Vice. We then see on the other apron, Kendall Gray getting involved and having her own sort of stare down with the champion. We then go to the Crow's Nest, where Izzy Dame and the Culling are there. Obviously, she's got her eyes on the title. And then we have the entrance of Zarya making her way down to the ring. But of course, wherever Zarya goes right now recently, Solruka's going to be not too far away, and the two start to have a bit of a brawl as Sol attacks Zarya, and that will be the end of the show. So, generally speaking here, this NXT episode, pretty good to be fair. Some title matches involved here. Big ones, obviously, with the NXT championships, both the men's and women's division being on the line. Two decent matches as well there, as to be honest with you. Different styles, but different things to take from that. Speed Championship tournament final being made here. We've got Lexus King and EK Prosper next week. Dark State not doing too well against Mylesborne, but have to sort of like reassess. Kalani Jordan with a big win, and Joe Hendry's got a bit of an issue with Keanu Carver. So there's a lot going on here, but it's a pretty decent episode of NXT. I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10. Lots going down, lots to look forward to in NXT Revenge Week 2. That could be coming up next week. But for now, everybody, this has been the push recap of NXT and the NXT Revenge special, part 1 of 2. Let us know in the comments what you thought of the show, whether you liked it, whether you didn't. Maybe I'm over hyping it a little bit. We'd love to hear your thoughts about everything and anything. And for now, this has been the push from Nick and KP. If you liked what you saw, then hit a like on our video, subscribe to our channel, and to keep up with future releases coming up very, very soon. But for now, everyone, take it easy, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.